The Cape buffalo is one of the most dangerous big game animals on the planet, especially when you're stalking them with a bow. Phil Phillips is hunting Africa's Black Death on this week's exciting episode of Phil Phillips Unleashed.
Hunting has always been my way of life. It's my profession, it's my passion. It's what I do best. My life's been captured on film so I could share it with you. I'm Phil Phillips, and this is my story. I hope you'll join me.
I'm a cowboy, I'm a worldwide cowboy, and there ain't no way you're ever gonna slow me down. I said, hoo, I said, hoo.
You know, I did my first African safari with a bow in 1991, and 2 or 3 years later was able to go with a friend and film him on his Cape buffalo hunt. And I knew right then I was hooked, and the first chance I got, I was going to go hunting Cape buffalo. I waited 5 or 6 more years before I got the opportunity. A good friend, Ron Rhodes, invited me on a rifle hunt they were going on. I talked to the outfitter. He said he'd be glad to take me with a bow, and the trip was planned. I'm telling you, it's one of the best things I ever did.
The Cape buffalo is one of the most notorious of all big game animals in Africa, and one of the most dangerous. Cape buffalo are commonly found in wetlands throughout sub-Saharan Africa. These lush areas provide the buffalo with essential water, food, and cover. Mature bulls can tip the scales at over 1,500 pounds, and their large horns and thick hide provides them with the weaponry and armor to do some serious damage. The Cape buffalo is fearless, and even lions don't dare take a chunk out of this massive beast unless they have friends helping them. It's been said that Cape buffalo kill more people every year than any other animal in Africa, the main reason they've been given the nickname Black Death. Phil's safari began with a long commercial flight from Denver, Colorado to Johannesburg, and then to the country of Mozambique, nestled in the southeastern part of the continent.
Well, one thing about hunting in Africa, it's a long ways over there, and it's a long flight. And it got even longer when I got to South Africa, to Johannesburg, went to the turnstile, got my luggage. My bow didn't arrive. It had been left in New York City. But there I was sitting in my dream location with no bow and arrow. The PH said they had an extra rifle in camp, and you know, that just wasn't what I was there for, so we just kept checking back every day by radio, and finally, on the 4th day, they said the next day my bow would arrive in a little sugarcane growing community, 4.5 hours by a small 2-track from the camp. But that's one of the best drives I ever took. As we went down the main street, it was actually a bustling community, and there were people carrying everything you could imagine on their heads, including a toilet. So it was quite an experience, and actually I was glad to have the detour and get to see that part of the African culture.
Just wanted to show you this pretty bustling little community. A lot going on around here. I'm excited to get back and open my bow though and see if I can fling a few arrows when we head for the swamp tomorrow. Just thought you might need to see this little town. Pretty cool.
With his trusty bow back in his possession, Phil was excited to get back to camp, but not before picking up a little charcoal for the grill.
What's that? What's that?
Sí.
¿Cuánto?
60.
¿Sabes?
60.
60. Por favor, ¿puedes ver
Uma?
Sí. Please, por favor.
These guys go out in the bush and there's a special kind of tree they cut make this charcoal, and then they take it to town and sell it. When we were in town, we forgot we needed to get a bag of charcoal. So on our way back, it's amazing. They've got these bicycles, and sometimes they're stacked 3 high. And each bag of charcoal probably weighs 75 pounds. Anyway, that was pretty neat. We stopped and bartered out a deal for a bag of charcoal. Now these young men are going to get on TV.
Phil Phillips Unleashed is brought to you by Scentlock, Easton, Matthews, catch us if you can, Burris Optics, New Archery Products, and Mississippi. Find your true South. This segment was sponsored by Wildlife Research Center and Scent Killer Gold.
You know, it wasn't too many years ago, a lot of guys physically couldn't hunt Cape buffalo with a bow. I say that because the equipment, you really needed to get enough kinetic energy to shoot nearly 100 pounds. Really heavy arrows, really heavy bow, and obviously a lot of people just weren't capable of doing that. Well, with today's technology, you can take a bow like the Matthews Safari, and it's pretty much ready-made for you to go. So a guy with an 80-pound bow, the Easton Safari arrows, and 125 grain razor cap or Hellraiser from NAP, you got a setup that'll take down any Cape buffalo.
Still got a lot of kinetic energy from here.
Got my bow out, everything came through in great shape. Did a little shooting, made sure everything was tuned in just right, loaded the Argo, and headed for the swamp.
The 5th day of a 10-day safari, and I'm going to get ahead for the woods, or the swamps actually. But we're going, it's about a 3 or 4 hour ride. We're going to get to the edge of the swamp, we're going to offload the Argo, and then the fun's going to start, so I can't wait.
Once we got out into the hunting area, we started watching for egrets, the white birds that you look for that hang out with the buffalo. It's really flat country and it would be nearly impossible to find these animals, but you actually watch for the birds. And we'd seen some birds in a distance, and then we just started for a place to set up camp.
Well, that's our ride for the next little ways. We've been probably 3 hours coming across country. They broke this trail just a couple days ago, bringing Ron and Phillip in to get their buffalo. We're actually going to load up the Argo with all our gear. We're actually going to go camp right in the swamp right with the buffalo. So, can't wait. We're finally out here. Tell you what, if you ever do an adventure like this or go any place where there's mosquitoes, you want to get you one of these bug tamers. They are the ultimate suit to not get eaten alive, and there are tons of skeeters here. Unfortunately, they carry malaria, so that's the only downside I can see, but everything else looks really good. We're going to load up and get out of here. That's actually the river we just crossed. You stepped off in there. We're going to camp here, but it looks a little bit uneven for bedding, so we're going to try to find a drier spot. We just found a first bunch of buffalo tracks so across this big area right here. We're getting out in buffalo land now.
We finally found just enough of an island where we had a spot maybe 10 by 10 that was dry enough to set a tent up, and we had to go over a ways farther and found another spot big enough to set a tent up. And our tracker actually threw his dinner on the fire, and that was pretty interesting.
Yep. A little barbecue sauce, maybe.
Ketchup.
Ketchup might be good. Our tracker caught this turtle on the way in, and kind of like cooking lobsters, he started his fire, plopped him shell up on there, and I don't know how he determined he was done, but he's apparently done. So here in a minute we're going to see just how the eating of a turtle takes place.
After the break, Phil's African safari gets serious in a hurry. This segment was sponsored by Wildlife Research Center and Scent Killer Gold. After waiting several days for his bow to arrive, Phil Phillips' Cape Buffalo Safari is finally underway. The hunting team has traveled several miles through the brush by truck and Argo. And after setting up a spike camp, the search begins for a mature bull. But the swampy terrain will make stalking difficult.
Well, it's finally the first morning. I actually had my bow in hand, and we're actually out in the swamp where we could find some buffalo. And we sat on top of the Argo with the binoculars probably for an hour and a half, and finally found some birds in the distance. Took off that direction, and what was it, maybe 45 minutes, we saw our first buffalo, a Dug-a-Boy, a lone bull. Perfect setup. Got out of the swamp and we're literally up to our waist, tracking towards this bull, and we actually hit a river channel, and that stopped our stalk. And that made it real apparent how difficult this was going to be.
We saw, they call it Dug-a-Boy, just a big lone bull. He's trailing the herd, and we come up into this, and this is actually a river. You can see the papyrus ahead of us here, and he said it's probably going to get up chest or neck deep, so instead of struggling through it for the next 2 or 3 hours, we're going to go ahead and get the Argo, get across. From up here, I can see lots and lots of birds, which means probably lots and lots of buffalo. This is exciting up there.
Well, we had to go back to the Argo. By the time we got back, we were already seeing more birds. So it turned out to be a pretty good thing that we got stopped by the river. We just had to go a short distance. We got out, set up our first stalk, and it worked perfect.
The hunting party has found the herd, but the cover is running out. Phil can only hope that one of the big bulls in the herd will feed close enough for a shot.
Two really good bulls. We're clear back on the other side of the herd. We're here so early and the grass is so tall, this is going to be really difficult. If you get in the open grass, then we've got no cover. The rest of it's all over their shoulders. It seems like the whole herd's moving this way, so that could be a good thing.
Stuck at the very edge of the last bit of cover, Phil knows that his only chance for a shot is if one of the bulls works its way into bow range.
We got around, got set up, the buffalo were feeding right towards us, and I actually had young bulls and cows feeding past me at 30 yards. It was an ideal setup, and there were some giant bulls towards the back of the herd. It really couldn't have been better. We had opened the reeds up right at a shooting lane, and there were buffalo from 20 to 40 yards just filtering past, and the big bulls were just starting to get close, and two old bulls took a little turn and turned right into the reeds right next to us. And they were literally maybe 7 feet away. But I actually drew my bow, and I was going to try to take this buffalo at 3 yards. And before I got to my anchor point, his head went through the opening, and by the time I settled in, I was looking at behind his rib cage. Definitely didn't want to take that shot at 3 yards, so I had to let the bow down, and the PH had been saying the whole time they were coming in, this is very dangerous, this is very dangerous. So he took the monopod once they were past us just enough to where they wouldn't come into the reeds, and made a little noise and slapped the brush, and they grunted and ran back into the herd. Well, once again, the whole herd moved back.
Well, that was almost my 3-yard buffalo shot. That was pretty intense. I don't know. Yeah, I'm shaking a little bit. A little adrenaline going there. I almost got a 3-yard shot. I had a little opening. I was going to have to cut through a couple reeds, but it was nothing but buffalo. But he was so slow, and he stepped across my opening so fast.
Yeah. So he's just feeding, and when the opening comes, he just walked forward. Oh, that was close.
This is pretty fun.
If you'd like to book a guided big game hunt like the one featured in this show, give Steve's Outdoor Adventures a call. The toll-free number and website address are listed on the screen. And Steve will personally help you book the hunting or fishing trip of a lifetime. Phil Phillips Unleashed is brought to you by Scentlock, Easton, Matthews, Catch Us If You Can, Burris Optics, New Archery Products, and Mississippi. Find your true south. Phil and his PH have been stalking this herd of buffalo for several hours, but they've been spotted and the herd is on edge.
We climbed back up on the Argo and headed in the general direction the buffalo had gone, and once we got to the reeds, you could see the herd had busted up. There were trails going in every direction, so we kind of followed the widest trail, and we broke out on a little island, and there was a small herd out there, but they had already seen us, so before we could get set up and make a plan, they left the island. Way at the other end, we saw a lone bull come across an opening heading towards another island, so we took the Argo around, got out, and started our stalk. We were going really slow, slipping through the reeds as quietly as possible, and we got up to the island where we thought the buffalo had gone. We kind of broke into the open, thinking the buffalo was still going to be down country from us, and he was right there.
Take him in the front. Take him in the front. Take it. Get that, Johnny. Quickly. Come and take it.
Come out, and I guess we startled him because he came right at us. Just, I don't know if it was more inquisitive or a charge, but he's coming and told me to take him right in the chest. And got my sight set for 30 yards, and I just put it right under his nose, and he must have been 15 yards. It looked like I hit him right in the bridge of the nose, but it looked like it may have went into his neck. He spun. We got into that long grass straight out here. I think we're going to go get back on the Argo because we can get up and see. He kind of has some open, short grass and tall grass, so I can't believe that. I'm glad he turned the other way.
Let's get him out.
Well, lucky for me, once we both saw I shot the buffalo right in the right nostril, the PH grabbed me and pulled me back into the reeds. The buffalo turned, the arrow stopped him in his tracks, and he said, we don't want him to get off this island, and he could have shot him with his rifle right then, but instead we hurried back to the Argo, ran up, and we busted out on the island thinking he'd probably gone across it, and he was still right there. And now he had business on his mind.
He's done.
Yeah. Ah.
It's not a very wide booth, but it's...
Fakamunyo, buzzing in the cat. Downs.
That was a beach one.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Hold on.
What is he, 10 yards?
Yeah. That's on his way to charge us, eh?
Let's give him it. He's still got a little breath in him. Tell you what, we snuck around. We had one lone bull coming through here, and he came right at us. I still don't know if it was really a charge or a bluff charge. We'll have to look, but I hit him right in the nose, and it looked like he came out here, and we busted out of the Argo right here, picked him up, and came up right next to him, and he turned right there and started with his head down, coming right at us. Said shoot him in the chest, and man, it was immediate. Yeah. Let's go see what I got.
It's a good shot.
Fantastic day of hunting. Buffalo all over the place. I got away with a bad shot. He didn't come on and charge and have to get a bullet put in him. We brought the Argo around, and he did come at us again, but I put this next one perfectly in the front. Not the shot you're looking for, but when they're coming at you, it's a good shot to take. And I tell you what, it stopped him fast.
Well, if you're interested in a hunt like this or any of the other hunts you see on Phil Phillips Unleashed, check us out on our website, thebowhunter.com. Sure hope you enjoyed today's show, and hope you'll tune in again next time. Till then, I'm your host, Phil Phillips. Always remember these three things. Be safe, practice good conservation, always leave better than you found it. We'll see you next time.
I'm a cowboy. I'm a worldwide cowboy. And there ain't no way you're ever gonna slow me down. I said, I said,
This has been a Steve's Outdoor Adventures production.